Hey everyone, I want to talk to you about something that I think is genuinely useful, creating a personal user guide. Now I know what you might be thinking, a user guide? For me? That sounds kind of corporate. It sounds like some bullshit HR thing. And look, I get it, but hear me out, because I think there's something really valuable here if you approach it the right way. So let me tell you what this actually is. A user guide is basically a document where you write down the things that are important for people in your life to know about you, how you work, how you communicate, what lights you up, what pisses you off, your strengths, your weaknesses, all that stuff. And here's the key. This is not the Bible, okay? This is not dogma. It's not a rigid thing. It's not putting you in a box. It's an idea that you can make whatever you want of it. You might have different user guides for different audiences. You might have a shorter one or a longer one. And the point is to understand what are the things that people need to know. So here's where it starts. First thing we got to talk about is self-discovery, because honestly, that's where the real value of this starts. When you sit down and try to articulate how you work, what you need, what matters to you, that process forces you to get clear on things you might not have thought about consciously before. I've seen this with people who feel stuck and who don't know their mission. And the truth is, you might deeply know your purpose. You might just right now not know where to aim in order to get there. Right? And so going through a process like this can help you to figure that out. It's also a chance to look at patterns in your life. If you've ever done behavioral assessments before, like DISC or Enneagram, Myers-Briggs, any of that, it's worth looking at those not as dogma, but there's stuff in there that's real. There are patterns that you will see coming up again and again and again. And those are things worth incorporating. So when you see something that doesn't fit, just don't put it in your guide. You don't have to. You're a grown-up. But when you find things that do resonate, put them in there. Okay, so that's the self-discovery piece, but there's a second value here, your personal relationships. So let's talk about that. Think about how much time we waste in our relationships, whether they're friendships or romantic partnerships or family, where people just don't understand kind of how we work, right? And where there's friction because someone doesn't know that you need time to process before you can talk about something, or that you hate being told what to do, or that you communicate much better in writing than you do verbally, right? And a user guide gives people that roadmap. It's like saying, hey, here's how I work best. Here's what I need from you. And here's what you can expect from me. And the beautiful thing is it's not about being rigid or inflexible. It's about creating understanding so that people in your life can actually support you better and you can support them better too. And that's why the real reason, or the biggest reason we tend to use this is in your team environments at work. So let's talk about work. This is where it gets really practical, right? When you're on a team, especially if you're in a leadership position, or working closely with others, a user guide is, pardon my French, fucking invaluable because it cuts through so much of that bullshit that happens when people don't understand each other. Instead of people trying to guess how to work with you or making assumptions that might be wrong, you just lay it out. Here's how I communicate best. Here's when I'm most productive. Here's what I'm working on, and here's what I need help with. Here's where I excel. Here's where I struggle. And it goes both ways because when your team members have user guides too, you can understand each other better. You can collaborate more effectively. You can avoid the kind of friction that comes from misunderstanding. I have seen teams transform when people start being honest about who they are and how they work. And this is not about making excuses and, it's really about finding clarity. So let's talk about the process. So here's what I suggest. You're going to sit down, you're going to take about an hour with this. You'll just start. You might not touch it for 2 years after that, and that's fine. I recently went back and did mine. And when I did, I added a lot more color because I just needed time to think about things. I have a very comprehensive document about myself. And whenever I need it, whether I'm joining a new team, starting a new relationship, or just trying to get clear on something, it's there and I can use it. So here's my challenge to you. Try this. Obviously not because I'm telling you to, but because obviously nobody likes being told what to do, but because I think it might really actually help you. When you write things down that are important for the people in your life to know, and you make it your own, throwing out what doesn't work out of all of that, keeping what does, and then you just can see what happens after that. Because at the end of the day, the more we understand ourselves and the more we can communicate that with others, the better everything gets. Work gets better, relationships get better, life gets better. Everything gets better. We do this with giant teams. We do these big programs. Sometimes it's a half-day workshop. Sometimes it's a 3 month, sometimes it's 6 months, sometimes a full year. But I'm making it available in the Superhero Institute so that you can do this for yourself, so that you can do it with your team. And you can go through the process. I'm providing all of the tools for you to be able to do it, so you don't need to spend a whole bunch of time and money with me and my team to go through it. There are templates in the next section, as well as AI assistants that you can use that will actually help kind of interview you and walk you through this process. I've created a custom gem for Gemini, a custom GPT for ChatGPT, and set up instructions for Claude. So if you use any of those big three, you will be able to set up your user guide assistant right in any of those and just get right to work immediately. And the templates are there, so you can just spill everything into those templates when you're done. And the GPT, the AIs, that is, they are also set up that once you are done creating your user guide, you can go back and work with it more to update it, to continue adding to it over time. You can also ask it questions. Hey, if I'm working with someone, how should they best manage me? If I'm working with someone who has this personality type, how might I need to adapt my approach? Hey, I'm going into this type of environment. Write me a survival guide. So it can do some really interesting things like that. And I think you're going to find it really exciting and really, really, really worthwhile. So I hope you'll do this.